Letitia, baby, you know, the one who is in a whole lot of trouble because she seemed to be caught doing the exact same thing that she's accusing Donald Trump of doing. Well, when it comes to the mortgage thing. And then, of course, the civil rights violations, that's a big deal in Albany. You see, she's got 2 DOJ cases against her, one in Virginia, one in Albany, and she was trying to get both of them thrown out. In the case of Albany, they're like, yeah, no, we're going to move forward here because, you know, you've been indicted and that indictment, we're going to keep moving forward with. So what does she do? She uses money from New York taxpayers to pay her legal bills, even after telling us that she wouldn't. But, you know, hey, she's Letitia. This was her outside the courthouse the other day. And boy, you know, she's entitled. If I ever saw entitled, this is the definition of entitlement, ladies and gentlemen. And wait till you meet her nieces.
But this is not about me. This is about all of us. And about a justice system which has been weaponized.
Really?
A justice system which has been used as a tool of revenge.
What do you think you did?
This justice system which has been used as a tool of revenge.
We heard you the first time.
And a weapon against those individuals who simply did their job and who stood up for the rule of law.
Give me a break. Give me a break.
We stand with you.
Oh, she's got her 5 fans out there standing with her. Well, I'll tell you who's not standing with her. Go over here, take a look at what just came out of the Times-Union today. The response, they're talking about Letitia's response here. She wanted to get this whole case thrown out. You see, they're accusing her of going after Donald Trump and his son's liberties, their basic civil liberties in the state of New York by so maliciously prosecuting him. Don't forget, she campaigned on this entire thing, all right? Don't forget. She's literally in trouble now for exactly the things that she did. So the response was filed after private attorneys retained by James. Private attorneys, okay? She's not using any state attorneys here. No, she's Letitia James, and she's got to have the big ones. You know, Abby Lowell, who charges like thousands of dollars an hour and has $1 million retainer. He worked for Hunter Biden. She's got to get the big guns in there. But being paid with state taxpayer dollars. Boom, bingo. Okay, state taxpayer dollars. You see, Kathy Hochul put a little aside for her $10 million that she put aside for her. And then for some reason, when it seemed politically unpopular and it was leaked to the press and the Republicans are like, what are you doing? And all of a sudden, even the press was like deserting her saying, what are you doing? And voters, especially those outside of New York City, are like, what are you doing? Guess what? She decided to say, no, I'm not going to take that. And then she was like begging, hat in hand, going out to legal funds saying, hey, can you help? Can you help? Can you help? And apparently, I don't know if nobody wanted to help or if she didn't get enough money, but she wound up then going back and using taxpayer dollars. So that's not cool. All right, so these motions that she was filing, seeking to block a couple of subpoenas in the judge in the Southern District of New York case after judges in the state Northern District recused themselves from the matter. She was going to the Southern District, and she filed all this paperwork, I guess, using taxpayer dollars. Like, that's I mean, I'm just going to say it. I have to be careful, right? But it kind of feels like stealing. I mean, you get your own legal problems and you turn to the taxpayers to pay for it after these are problems of your own making. Elise Stefanik's been all over this. Here she is writing, Tish James's actions embody the corruption among New York elected Democrats led by Kathy Hochul. By the way, Kathy Hochul, you're in for a run for your money because Elise Stefanik, the representative from New York, she's going to beat you. We've already seen the polls and she's ahead of you, Kathy Hochul. Well, I recently exposed how Governor Kathy Hochul and Albany Democrats secretly inserted language into the state budget to cover James's legal expenses with taxpayer money. That's what I'm talking about. And then she said she wouldn't do it, but I guess she did. This abuse of power is an insult to New Yorkers already struggling with high taxes. You better believe it. And by the way, those taxes are going up, certainly in New York City, thanks to Comrade Mamdani. The investigation into Letitia James is a vital step towards justice. I will continue to fight to expose New York corruption, protect constitutional rights, and hold these failed Democrat leaders in New York accountable. My gosh. I mean, this is gross stuff. This was the headline in the New York Post, actually, back in October, how indicted New York attorney generals Letitia James is going to pay for her legal defense, which could cost up to $10 million. And so at the time, they were saying that, yeah, this money had been set aside, but she wasn't going to use it. She wasn't going to tap into the $10 million Kathy put aside for her legal fund. And now we're learning, according to the, and I give them credit, this is a local paper up in Albany, the Albany Times, that in fact, she's paying for her attorneys, her private attorneys, with state taxpayer dollars. So Tishy baby, I think you're kind of in for it. I think that this is going to be a problem, and we're going to see more and more of this problem come forward. And I actually think you're going to wind up in a political problem as a result. The Hill had an interesting op-ed just yesterday saying that her chances of winning are like really slim, really bad. Like, again, New York City is different. And sure, she came out and supported Mamdani because she hates Cuomo, because Cuomo hates her, and that's a whole other thing we don't need to get into today. But she came out and supported Mamdani, but that's not going to matter when it comes to the rest of New York. I told you, my husband's from the Buffalo area, right outside of Buffalo, Lockport, New York, and we're talking good, solid people there, and I see a lot of Trump signs. I really do, and I don't think they're big fans of Letitia James and the fact that she's telling local police officers there not to cooperate. That was a story in the news about 6 months ago with any of the ICE officers. This is going to become a bigger and bigger issue. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to go back to Mike Davis, who said it so eloquently. I had to take out a swear word or two, but he has his own panache. Here he is with my friend Benny. Watch.
Let me just say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time, and we will put your facts in prison for conspiracy against rights. And I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitutional rights. It's not going to happen again.
Okay, but she did. She violated his constitutional rights, and that's what has gone to the court there. This is what's in the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York. Okay, so she's got 2 cases against her, and she's not supposed to use the money from the taxpayers. She promised she wouldn't, and yet that's exactly what she's doing, of course, according to the legal bills that we saw this week out of New York. So meanwhile, you get the DOJ getting another win here in the mortgage fraud case. So Lindsay is getting a little bit of a win. The lawyers for Letitia James, well, that would be Abby Lowell, were complaining that Lindsay was talking to the press and they didn't like that. And then they wanted her to keep a log of everything that she said and everything that she was interacting with. And they wanted to see a copy of that diary. And basically the judge said, yeah, go pound sand. Okay, that's not happening. So that is good news, again, for the DOJ, for Lindsay Halligan, and of course for Donald Trump, because this woman, and frankly the country, because she needs to pay a price. Moving back here to New York, the DOJ is saying that there is ample evidence politics motivated Letitia James's case against Donald Trump. You know that. Here's the Northern District of New York Attorney John Sarcone. His office is contending that it's the grand jury investigation of State Attorney General Letitia James, that it's valid and based on ample evidence of politically motivated selective prosecutions of Donald Trump. I mean, of course it was. How many times have I played you? I won't do it again today, I promise. I know everybody gets annoyed because we're all sick of seeing it, but sometimes it's entertaining. I won't do it today because we have a lot to get to. But she's like, too male, too pale, too stale. And what did she say? I promise every day I'm going to go into the office, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to go after Trump. That's all I'm going to do. That's all she cared about doing. And that is exactly what she did. She sued him over 100 times. She tried to bankrupt the guy. And here we are now. Guess what? He's back in charge. He's now the president of the United States. And Letitia is struggling. And you know how we know she's struggling? There have been some polls that suggest she really is struggling. And again, there's my anecdotal evidence because I travel to Western New York and I see what the rest of the place is like outside of Manhattan, where I have no intention of going in the near future. I got to tell you, I lived many years. I went to Columbia. I lived with my husband for years. My kids were all born in New York. And in 2018, we just decided, really wasn't the best place for kids It just, or for us for that matter. And we decided to move outside the city. And I got to tell you, every single day I pinch myself and I'm like, this is so great. How did I ever live in the city that long? But I can tell you right now, and I was thinking last night, boy, am I glad that I sold my apartment back in 2018. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I mean, what a disaster the place has become. I mean, Rudy Giuliani, he really improved it. It turned into like Disney World back when Disney World was actually nice. And then you had Mayor Bloomberg, who I actually used to work for at Bloomberg Television 2 times. I started my career there and I came back and was a main anchor and ran all their political coverage. Yeah, imagine me. That was actually kind of funny. They were like, Trish, will you put a Democrat on, please? They don't want to come on with me. What can I say? I don't know. Anyway, Mike Bloomberg, he did a decent job. All right. And then you get Comrade de Blasio over there who didn't know how to pick up the trash or plow the streets in a snowstorm. And then the poor guy, Eric, I mean, Eric Adams, I think he meant well, but he was kind of a disaster. And by the way, by then, the train had left the station. In other words, the crazy leftists had taken over, and all of a sudden you get this guy who just graduated from Bowdoin College a few years ago, whose dad is a Columbia University, frankly, kind of in my estimation, total nut job, because he's one of these colonialist, anti-colonialist, oh gosh, we got to blame white people for everything, and you need reparations in the whole 9 yards. That's how this guy was raised, and now here he is, the mayor-elect of New York City. But going back to the way the rest of the state feels, if you look at some of these poll numbers for one Letitia James, what you actually see is that she's not doing that well. I mean, they write in the City Journal, consider James and Hochul's electoral records. While James received over 60% of the vote in 2018, that was a while ago, in 2022, she only got 54.6%, and that was far less impressive, barely 1 percentage point better than Hochul's win over Congressman Lee Zeldin, and it was the worst performance by a winning Democrat gubernatorial candidate in 40 years. So, in other words, Hochul's doing lousy. We saw a new poll saying that Elise Stefanik's going to beat her. And then this one, and this is from a few months ago. I mean, these numbers have gone down most definitely since then. You can see that Attorney General Letitia James is really struggling because if you look at her favorability ratings, check that one out. Oh my gosh, she's doing worse than Chuck Schumer. I mean, I thought that was hard to do, right? Because poor Chucky, babe, he's really struggling. He's got AOC nipping at his heels like you've never seen. He's even afraid to say who he voted for. He wouldn't say who he voted for in all seriousness in this election. So Chuck Schumer, 46 favorable, 41% unfavorable. Attorney General Letitia James, 40% favorable, 33% unfavorable, and then 27% don't know. And this was, like I said, before this whole ordeal. This is before she was indicted. This is before it was found out that she was out there, what do you know, paying for her legal bills with your, if you live in New York, taxpayer dollars. There's something fundamentally wrong with that now, is there not? So her career, if you ask me, is basically over. On top of which, if you look at basically these issues that are so important to voters outside of New York City, she's at odds with all of them. 79% of New Yorkers, they back deporting immigrants convicted of a crime. I mean, that really shouldn't be that. I'm surprised it's not like 99.99%. I mean, if you've been convicted of a crime, you really think somebody ought to be staying here? I'm curious about the the ones that think that's okay. But anyway, you're at 79%. 39% back deporting immigrants with no criminal record. Okay, that's actually a pretty big number. And then you got 59% who do not want taxpayers paying for migrants' medical care. What do you think this whole shutdown's about? $1.5 trillion that they want to give to migrants medical care. Only 26% are in favor. 48% support federal efforts to deport all illegal migrants. 31% oppose. This is the Siena College poll. I'm telling you, she is not on the right side of these issues. Now, is she? She's on the wrong side of everything. So when you go outside of New York City, she's going to have some really, really big problems. So she's getting these legal setbacks one after another, with the latest today being out of Albany, New York. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Albany contends its grand jury investigation of State Attorney General Letitia James is indeed valid. She was trying to get out. She won. This is, again, according to the Times-Union. Okay, I got to gulp my water. I call it pulling a Marco Rubio. when you need to gulp your water on set. But, we don't have any commercials over here in podcast land. So I have to take it when I can get it. Attorney General Letitia James is valid and based on whether she may have violated federal laws by selectively pursuing lawsuits against the National Rifle Association as well as President Donald J. Trump for political motives. I mean, I don't think that this is something that's even contestable. She was so out there and obvious about it. What did she say? Like she knew nothing about the case and she's on the campaign trail promising to go after him. That's all she wanted to do. So she was out there trying to squash these 2 subpoenas that were seeking some records into the investigation she was doing in her office. And she doesn't want this whole indictment coming out of the state of New York, right? She's already facing one in Virginia. And basically what was decided here is that, that there's enough evidence to move forward. So Attorney Richard Bellis, he's the Assistant U.S. Attorney, he was actually saying that the subpoenas were issued by a validly impaneled grand jury. They get a grand jury investigation looking at all of this, and he cited prior court filings of a grand jury investigative powers as being really expansive. And they are. They are, right? What's the saying? You can indict a ham sandwich? Like anybody can get indicted? Like, in other words, this is the stage before that. So by all means, they have the right to ask for this. And the idea that she's actually trying to threaten them and say, you can't, and that her lawyers are saying that should actually trouble everyone. So the good news is she's not getting anywhere on it. And they have made it very clear in their response that they're going to continue pursuing all of this. So Letitia James, just stop running up the bills, if you would, because I think people are getting kind of tired of these legal bills. I do want to point out that one thing that she said in response was that the words of the Attorney General herself established beyond a reasonable doubt that this action was commenced not to vindicate the public interest, but out of a partisan political motive. Okay, that was the lawyers for Trump on behalf of the state. That's the U.S. Attorney's Office. They're saying this, but I found her response really peculiar, and I actually put this in green. See my little scribble? I do all that. I get my highlighter out, and then I put it on the screen for you because the things that I really think are important, I want you to know. This is what she said in response to the U.S. Attorney's Office saying, hey, we've got all of this information that really want to know more about. We've got all these news conferences, all these social media statements. I mean, you were pretty incendiary out there. So don't you think we ought to be able to get more information on this stuff? And she said, direct quote, no one is above the law, including this illegitimate president. And so I look forward to going into the Office of Attorney General every day, suing him, defending your rights, and going home. So just remember that. And when they try and tell you, or she tries to tell you that this is just a political vendetta all designed to take her down because she tried to bankrupt him, go back to that. No one is above the law, including this, quote, illegitimate president. Okay, she's quoting Jimmy Carter there. And we know what that was all about. Hey, we got Comey's handwritten notes, thanks to Lindsay. She just revealed that Exhibit 13. We'll get to that later on. I'll tell you guys, this is pretty damn bad what they did. And then, of course, it's all coming back to haunt her. When powerful people cheat to get better loans, she said it comes at the expense of honest and hardworking people. Everyday Americans cannot lie to a bank to get a mortgage to buy a home. And if they did, the government would throw the book at them. There simply cannot be different rules for different peoples. Really, Letitia? Really? So she thought that Donald Trump was cheating because he was, in her belief, overestimating the value of one Mar-a-Lago. Like she's the one to decide the value of Mar-a-Lago? I think, when you go out there and you decide to take a loan on a second home, and you say it's your second home, and then separately you're listing it as a rental income property because you're letting your niece live there, and apparently it's a rental enough. She's got the electricity bill in her name, and you're listing it, in your financial disclosures as an income property, and yet you get out a loan to which you save something like $19,000, according to the New York Post, over the extent of the loan. Like, I actually think that that's kind of bad. I actually think that those words are coming back to hurt you and haunt you. When powerful people cheat to get better loans, it comes at the expense of honest and hardworking people. I mean, you saved yourself the cool 19 grand. Come on. Oh, Tishy.